So, we're doing the Bible, and I'm going to talk about the origins and influence of the Bible in history and literature, because the Bible is obviously a really famous book. You see it all over the place. So some of the origins. The Old Testament was written by about 30 different people. I'm not quite sure how many people wrote it, but around 30. The New Testament was written by about 10 individuals. In case you're not familiar, the Old Testament's the first half, New Testament's the new half. And the Old Testament's actually the Torah, which is the Jewish Bible. But you shouldn't call it the Old Testament around. You shouldn't say that the Torah is the Old Testament because Jewish people get offended. Because to them there is no New Testament, that is the Testament. So yeah, and then throughout history it's been edited a lot by the church and stuff's been cut out. The writers, it's kind of cool because all the writers come from like all over the general like Europe, Asia area and all throughout time. But there's a lot of stuff that's connected in between, so that's pretty cool. And then there's a lot of anonymous authors who you don't really know. Like some books have been written and nobody knows who wrote them. They're just part of the Bible. Moses was a big author. He wrote the first 5 books, and they were all recounting events in the past. He lived, I think, around 1500 BC. And so, yeah, he talked about Genesis, the flood, all this stuff that kind of happened before his time that he was kind of recounting. And his first writings come from around 400 BC. So this is like way before Jesus and all that. So King Solomon was another big writer of the Bible, and this guy was extremely smart. He was the king of Israel. He wrote Proverbs, some Psalms, and the Song of Solomon. Psalms and Proverbs are both books in the Bible. But he was really cool. He was an architect and a poet and a scientist and a writer and a lot of things. But he was extremely smart for his time. So there's been a huge historical influence by the Bible too. A lot of wars fought over it, a lot of people dying. Christianity started way back after the fall of the Roman Empire. And Christianity kind of like, it was around before then, but it wasn't real widespread. And when the Roman Empire fell, it kind of took off, and it was this big thing. The church became really powerful, and this is kind of all based off the Bible and like the story of Jesus and origin. So some huge wars that were fought over the Bible are the 30 Years' War, which went on for 30 years. The English Civil War, which is another big war. The Crusades, where Christian leaders kind of went around and just tried to spread Christianity, sometimes kind of violently. And then the French Wars of Religion, so there were just a lot of wars fought in France over religion. Cathedrals, there's a lot of huge cathedrals around the world, which took many, many decades to build, and usually, they were started in one generation and finished, 100 years later. And they're just huge and required like immense amounts of work. And that's all kind of like ties back to Christianity, which ties back to the Bible. So that's kind of a big thing the Bible is responsible for. That picture is from St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City, which that's the biggest cathedral. As of, I think there might be a bigger one now, but I'm not sure. Like a modern one, it said. There's been some big influences on literature. For instance, Dante's Inferno. This is an epic poem, and essentially Dante Alighieri, who is this Italian poet who's Christian, wrote this poem about what hell is like and about his journey through hell, which he didn't actually go on, but he kind of like gives a description of this whole place that you hear about in the Bible all the time, but you never really know like what it's like. He gives this really in-depth description of all the different layers of it and why people are there. Paradise Lost is another epic poem by John Milton. This has to do with the fall of man and Adam and Eve, in the Garden of Eden, and also the fall of the angel Lucifer, who's fell from heaven and turned into Satan once he fell down. And that's based on books from the Bible, Genesis and Ezekiel and Isaiah. And that is the historical and literary influence of the Bible.
We'll put, Lizzy made a really long video for us all, and we'll just get it online so we can all watch it.
Hers was like breaking down the books of the Bible, so if you're not as familiar with like, which like I'm definitely going to be watching it, with like how the Bible is like structurally organized and what the book's are all about. We get to watch that. But Allie and I did Allusions, so Allie's got like objects and like events, and I've got people. So these are things like that in poems or in like passages in the AP exam, like you might see a reference to like a Good Samaritan or Judas or something, so it would be really good to know who they are. So we have handouts for you, and we also made like matching games. So you guys are in like pairs, so you do it with the person across from you.
Yeah.
But
Or match up with someone who has about the same knowledge of the Bible as you do, like who don't really know it that well, like me, match up with someone else who doesn't. So what we'll do is we'll get you going on the game, and then once you reach a point where you're stuck or you can't go any further, we'll give you the handout, and you can self-check, and that'll also give you a pretty good idea on what you know and what you don't know. Some of these seem more obvious, like the Tree of Knowledge. Most people know about that, but then there was one like the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse I had never ever heard of before. So, but they're all things that frequently occur, and they're the most popular ones.
so we'll do about 5 minutes playing each game because we have like different topics. Do you want to do yours first?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so, or why don't